Who wants to read?
Yeah.
Why don't you start? The myths.
The myths. A precarious balance between the forces of good and evil. There was no letter for Sophie the next morning. Although the interminable day at school she was called Steve. She took care to be extra nice to enjoy the day with her friends. On the way home, they talked about going camping as soon as the woods were dry enough. After what seemed an eternity, she was once again at the mailbox. First she opened the letter postmarked in Mexico. It was from her father. It was about how much he was longing for home and how, for the first time, he had managed to beat the chief officer at chase. Apart from that, he had almost finished the pile of books he had brought abroad with him after his winter leave. And then there it was, a brown envelope with her name on it, leaving her school bag and the rest of the mail in the house. Sophie ran to the bed. She pulled out the new written pages and began to read. The mythological war picture.
Stop. Can you guys please not make a disturbance at the back? Please. The mythological world picture.
Hello there, Sophie. We have a lot to do, so we'll get started without you. By philosophy, we mean the completely new way of thinking that evolved in Greece about 600 years before the birth of Christ.
Okay, stop. Hey, you three, did you guys bring the text? Text. Did you guys bring the text? You guys can leave. আপনারা যান, আপনাদেরকে আমার দরকার নেই ক্লাস। আপনারা যেতে পারেন। আপনারা দেরি করে আসছেন, টেক্সট নিয়ে আসেন। আপনি নেক্সট ক্লাস থেকে টেক্সট নিয়ে আসবেন। তারপরে আমরা ক্লাসটা করব। আজকের ক্লাসটা আপনাদের জন্য। আপনাদের অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স আমি দিয়ে দিই। সরি? আজকে কেন আপনাদের ফার্স্ট ক্লাস? কয়টা ক্লাস হয়ে গিয়েছে? সরি? অসুস্থ ছিলাম। আপনারা অসুস্থ ছিলেন, আপনারা দুইজন অসুস্থ ছিলেন। বসেন। এভাবে কিন্তু ক্লাস নেওয়া যায় না। আমি একটা ক্লাস শুরু করে দিয়েছি, 2-3টা ক্লাস চলে গিয়েছে। আপনারা এখনো কি করছেন আমি জানি না। I'm really sorry.
By philosophy, we mean the completely new way of thinking that evolved in Greece about 600 years before the birth of Christ. Until that time, people had found answers to all their questions in various religions. These religious explanations were handed down from generation to generation in the form of myths. A myth is a story about the gods which sets out to explain why life is as it is.
A myth is a story about the gods which sets out
to explain why life is as it is.
Okay, so we get an interesting introduction to philosophy. So the unnamed person who sends Sophie a letter starts like this: by philosophy, we mean the completely new way of thinking that evolved in Greece about 600 years before the birth of Christ. So philosophy started 600 before the Christ, 600 years ago. And people found their meaning of life in various religions. They found answers to their questions. And these religions basically gave them answers in the form of myths. What is myth?
Myth is a mixture of truth and legend, like something.
Myth is, as per the Greek word, simply meaning story.
Story.
Myth
Yes.
means story. Okay.
Mythology.
What are your excuses for being late? You do. What is your excuse for being late today?
They live in a land far, far away.
Yes, you. What is your excuse for coming late? You have no excuse. What do you mean by you have no excuse? You need to have a reason. For such and such reason I was late. Well, why were you late? That is what I want to know. Look, everybody has a reason for why they're late. Some have good reasons, some have bad reasons. What is your reason for being late? That's all I want to know. Are you understanding what I'm saying? What is your reason for being late? You overslept. That is your reason. Do you understand what the answer was? I wanted to hear why you were late. Your answer is, I overslept, therefore I am late. What is your reason for being late? Traffic jam. Today there was no traffic. I came early today. Where do you come from? Yes, what are your reasons for being late? And you?
I came from
Bosundhara is very close. You have no excuse. No, he said that he overslept.
Wow. Sleeping beauties. Sleeping beauties of our class.
Where do you work?
Sir, all of this chaos is recorded.
Yes, I want everybody to see it. People need to see this chaos.
Maybe. Next.
Don't give your book away to somebody else. Okay, I'm going to start now. I want some quiet in the class. I want some quiet in the class, and those of you who want to use their phones, keep it in your bag or in your pocket. No phones allowed in the class. Okay? You either use the text or you don't use the text. There's no second alternative. So yes, we were over here. Amit is a story about the gods which sets out to explain why life is as it is. Okay? Over the millennium.
Over the millennia, a wide profusion of mythological explanations and philosophical questions.
What is it? Why are you late? But why are you late? This is your first class, but why are you late? Where do you live? But you came on a bike, why are you still late? Yes?
I'm worried about it.
But did you not anticipate the traffic? You did not?
But he wants to
You anticipated the traffic and you were still late.
He wants to remove.
Is it not the case that you left home? Yes, that is the true answer. Don't give me lies. Alright, go on, sit.
Over the millennia, a wide profusion of mythological explanations of philosophical questions spread across the world. The Greek philosophers attempted to prove that these explanations were not to be trusted. In order to understand how the early philosophers thought, we have to understand what it was like to have a mythological picture of the world. We can take some Nordic myths as example. There is no need to carry goals to castle. You have probably heard of Thor and his hammer. Before Christianity came to Norway, people believed that Thor rode across the sky in a chariot drawn by two goats. Goats, yeah. When he swung his hammer, it made thunder and lightning. The word thunder in Norwegian, Thordom, means Thor's roar. In Swedish, the word for thunder in Aska, originally as Aka, which means God's journey over the heavens. When there is a thunder and lightning, there is also rain, which was vital to the Vikings' farmers. So Thor was worshipped as the god of fertility. The mythological explanation for rain was therefore that Thor was swinging his hammer, and when it rained, the corn germinated and thrived in the fields. How the plants of the field could grow and yield crops was not understood. But it was clearly somehow connected with the rain. And since everybody believed that the rain had something to do with Thor, he was one of the most important of the Norse gods. There was another reason why Thor was important, a reason related to the entire wall of water. The Vikings believed that the inhabited world was an island under constant threat from outside dangers. They called this part of the world Midgard, which means the kingdom in the middle. Within Midgard lay Asgard, the domain of the gods.
Okay, so we learned some things. We learned that the mythological worldview was such that people told stories in order to explain certain events. For example, this philosopher explains to Sophie that Norwegians believed that the reason there was thunder
Because of Thor,
was because of Thor,
the god of thunder.
the god of thunder. What did he do? Thor swung his hammer. The swinging of his hammer was the sound of
Lightning.
yes.
And they
Thunder.
worshipped Thor as a god of
Fertility, because with thunder came
Rain.
rains.
Okay, so they do not right now they do not understand that lightning creates nitrogen and nitrogen oxide and all those chemicals, which then fertilize the soil, and then the rain has something to do with the fertility of the soil. They don't understand these things. They just know that it's somehow connected.
It's somehow connected with the rain.
So
Science was absent then. That's why they believed in
science
it.
is also philosophers are
For
going to
their knowledge.
yes. So they will philosophers will argue that science is also story.
Science also story.
Okay.
Yes. Science is
Learning
also
new
story.
things every day. Okay.
From a philosophical position, science is also story, because think about this. We human beings used to think that the sun revolves around the earth.
Yeah.
What is this? Science? Yes, it's science. It was presented as science, but it's a story, right? Now we learn that the earth revolves around the sun. We now believe that the earth revolves around the sun. Maybe the later generation will find out something else. Right, that is the nature of science. It keeps on changing. You might think that right now this is the truth. No, we are definitely upon the truth. No.
I want to say something like when we something proves any invention, then we can call this science.
No. An invention is not science. Science is a method.
To invent something.
To prove something.
Prove something or invent.
Yes.
No, science is not a method to prove something. Science is simply a method to come to certain conclusions about something.
Oh. Yeah.
Science does not give us truth. Science just tells us some very limited things. So for example, okay, because you guys want to discuss this. Yes, you were saying science is invention.
Yeah.
Why do you think so?
Because when I was little, then the teacher gave us some project. You have to prove this thing and invent something that it is good for human or something like that. It is a rock and it is a wood kind of.
This is a rock and what?
It's a wood. This type of project.
I'm not sure I understand your logic here.
I mean that.
Go on.
Can I speak it?
No, you cannot speak in Bangla.
This is so difficult. I want to
Yes, I you were saying something.
I got nothing. I have no mind. Just distract.
It's okay, don't react so much. Talk.
Yes, why you guys talking again at the back? You guys didn't bring the text and now you guys are causing disturbances. No, I want to hear it. Come on, tell me.
No, sir. I'm just distract. I got.
Is it my fault or is it their fault?
I don't know. This is my.
Your fault.
Wow.
Yes, it is also your fault.
Yeah.
You give also.
Yes, so where was I? So science. So what do you guys think about science?
I thought it is to prove something, but
I don't know.
Science is kind of, you can say that it's very logical. So logic to prove something.
yes, logical explanation to prove something that it exists with mathematical terms and experiments. But you said it's certain to.
I said science is a story. Right?
Like, something is happening, like you see that something is happening and you don't know what the reason behind it.
Yeah, it's
So it's help us to
explain
know
that
the
incident.
exact reason why it's happening.
No, it helps us.
Logic.
It gives us a story into why it is happening. I will tell you why. I will tell you why. So it is as I was saying. So originally we thought, a lot of people thought that the sun revolves around the earth.
Yes.
But at that time, if you guys were living at the time, if I told you guys, look, the sun does not revolve around the earth revolves around the sun, you would have said that, look, you're being unscientific. You would have told me, for example.
Galileo.
Yes, you are being unscientific, you're just doing this to cause trouble. So, but you see, note that when people said things like, the sun revolves around the earth, they had explanations for that. They had reasons for that, very strong reasons. So, we may have moved from that story to this story now, but the fact that it's a story remains the same because science is always changing. We are coming up with new explanations every single day. So, tomorrow, somebody is going to come up with another explanation saying that we did not account for this and that. Therefore, the worldview we had 10 years ago or 20 years ago is false. So we have known the wrong thing all this time. It's not that it's a wrong thing. We are always making up stories to get an explanation for things. Okay? That is sort of the point I'm trying to get across. You guys can feel free not to agree with me, okay? But we will learn more about this as we move forward. No problem. Yes, where were we?
Outside Midgard.
Outside Midgard.
Outside Midgard was the kingdom of Midgard.
Ungar.
Domain of the treacherous giants who restored all kinds of
Resorted. Resorted.
who resorted all kinds of cunning tricks to try and destroy the world. Evil monsters like these are often referred to as the forces of chaos. Not only the Norse mythology, but in almost all other Greek cultures, people found that there was a precarious balance between the forces of good and evil. One of the ways in which the giants could destroy Midgard was by abducting Freyja, the goddess of fertility. If they could do this, nothing would grow in the fields and the women would no longer have children. So it was vital to hold these giants in check. Thor was a central figure in the battle with the giants. His hammer could do more than make rain. It was a key weapon in the struggle against the dangerous forces of chaos. It gave him almost unlimited power. For example, he could hard hit the giants and slay them. And he never had to worry about losing it because he always come back to him. Just like a boomerang.
You guys all watched the Avengers series,
Of
right?
course,
Yes,
we
yes.
did MCU.
So first he has the Mjolnir,
Yes.
but then he loses the Mjolnir.
Stormbreaker.
And he gets, another thing called Stormbreaker, right?
Yes.
it's very, this kind of stories are very attractive. So just like you guys watch these films and enjoy these films, you have to understand why people in those times might be unwilling to accept that it is in fact just a story. They accept it as a true
I
explanation.
have like not research but a bit of interest in Norse mythology, Greek mythology. I have watched a lot of videos on this and I'm fascinated with that.
Yes, you see, the thing is, it's not just interesting.
Good stories.
Yes, the fact that you're interesting that you find it interesting shows that people in those times must have also found it interesting.
Yeah, they believed in it.
Yes, interesting enough to believe in it.
Yes.
Okay. This was the mythological explanation for how the balance of nature was maintained and why there was a constant struggle between both. And this was precisely the kind of explanation that the philosophers rejected. But it was not a question of explanations alone. Mortals could not just sit idly by and wait for the gods to intervene while catastrophes such as drought or plague loomed. They had to act for themselves in the struggle against evil. This they did by performing various religious ceremonies or rites. The most significant religious ceremony in Norse times was the offering. Make an offering to a god had the effect of increasing the god's power. For example, mortals had to make offerings to the gods to give them the strength of conquer the forces of chaos. They could do this by sacrificing an animal to the god. The offering to Thor was usually a goat. Offerings to Odin sometimes took the form of human sacrifices. The myth that is best known in the Nordic countries comes from the Ediko, the lay of
Straight.
three.
Herm.
Trump. The lay of
To
Trump.
be honest, I don't really know how to spell these things either because these are Norwegian language. So if you spell it in a certain way, don't worry about it.
It tells how Thor, rising from sleep, finds that his hammer is dead. This makes him so angry that his hands tremble and his beard shakes. Accompanied by his henchman, Loki, he goes to Freyja to ask if Loki may borrow her wings so that he can fly to Jotunheim, the land of the giants, and find out if they are the ones who have stolen Thor's hammer. And at Jotunheim, Loki meets Frey, the king of giants, who sure enough begins to boast that he was fitted the hammer 7 leagues under the earth. And he adds that gods will not get the hammer back until Frey is given Freyja as his bride. Can you picture it? So suddenly the good gods find themselves in the midst of the full brown hostage incident.
Okay, so why do they want Freya? What kind of god is Freya?
Fertility.
God of fertility. You see, this is why they want Freya, because Freya is the god of fertility. If they have Freya, they will have good crops,
Good crops.
more food,
Yes, that will be boost
More
up.
children, more fighters.
more
warriors.
fighters. Exactly. The giants.
The giants have seized the gods' most vital defensive weapon. And this is an utterly unacceptable situation. As long as the giants have the Thor's hammer, they have total control over the world of gods and mortals. In exchange for the hammer, they are demanding treasure. But this is equally unacceptable. If the gods have to give up their goddess of fertility, she who protects all life, the grass will disappear from the fields, and the gods and mortals will die. The situation is deadlocked. Loki returns to Asgard, so the myth goes, and takes Freyja to put on her wedding attire, for she is, alas, to wed the king of the giants. Freyja is furious and says people will think she is absolutely went crazy if she agrees to marry a giant. Then the god came to as an idea. He suggests that God dress up as a bride, with his hair up and 2 stones under his tunic. He will look like gold. Understandably, Thor is not widely enthusiastic about the idea, but he finally accepts that this is the only way he will ever get his hammer back.
Okay, so Brad is not interested because it will ruin her image. And Thor is not interested because he has to cross-dress. Okay? But Thor understands the utility of the hammer. The hammer is his identity, literally, right?
He was wrong about
So
it.
this is the only way.
Yeah?
He was wrong about it. He was not the god of hammers. He was the god of lightning.
So that was the only way to give rest.
So they have to make a compromise here. Continue.
So Thor allows himself to be attired in bridal costume with Loki as his bridesmaid.
Bridesmaid. My god.
To put it in present day terms, Thor and Loki are the gods, anti-terrorist squad. These guys has common. Their mission is to reach the giants, stronghold, and recapture Thor's land.
Okay, so what did they tell you guys about phones? Did you mute it? Did you mute your phones? You guys, please, those of you who have your phones, please mute it. Mute it and then put it back in your bag or whatever. So interestingly enough, as I was saying, you guys have watched the Avengers films, right?
Yes.
Both Thor and Loki has long hair,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes, sir.
Loki is played by whom? Tom
Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yes.
And Thor is played by
Hemsworth.
Chris
Chris
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. Both of them have long hair.
Both of them are good.
Brothers. From
God
different
gave you.
brothers.
Should I start? Should I continue?
Okay. No. You try.
When the gods arrived at
Jotunheim.
Jotunheim, the giants begin to prepare the wedding feast. But during the feast, the bride Thor, that is divorced an entire ox and 8 salmons. He also drinks 3 barrels of beer. This astonished Trine, the true identity of the commanders is very nearly revealed. But Loki manages to avert the danger by explaining that Freya has been looking forward to becoming Jotunheim so much that she has not eaten for a week.
Okay. Wait. Okay.
So these are the unknown story of
These are the known stories of
one story, but we didn't.
We of course did not know. So what happens here?
Thor ate a lot because he usually does. He eats a lot maybe.
But the explanation that is given to the giant
Well,
who is going to marry her is that he is so excited to marry the giant that he has not eaten for a week. He is not eaten for a week. Okay. Continue. You guys don't have to write this because I'm going to take the attendance separately. You guys can throw it away. I'm not going to take that.
when Trine lifts the bridal veil to kiss the bride, he is startled to find himself looking into Thor's burning eyes. Once again, Loki saves the situation by explaining that the bride has not slept for a week because she is so excited about the wedding. At this time, commands that the hammer be brought forth and laid in the bride's lap during the wedding ceremony. Thor roars with laughter when he is given the hammer. First he kills time with it, and then he wipes out the giants and all their kin.
Kin is brothers and sisters.
And thus the
Kin, no. Kin is anybody who is related to you by blood.
family. Yes.
By blood, exactly, family.
And thus the gruesome hostage affair has a happy ending. Thor,
The Batman.
Batman or James Bond of the gods has once again conquered the forces of evil. So much for the myth itself, Sophie. But what is the real meaning behind it? It wasn't made up just for entertainment. The myth also tries to explain something here. Here is one possible interpretation. When a drought occurred, people sought an explanation of why there was no rain. Could it be that the giants had stolen Thor's hammer? Perhaps,
What is a drought? Khara, very good. So when a drought took place, they wondered if Thor's hammer was stolen.
That's why this story was Perhaps the myth was an attempt to explain the changing seasons of the year. In the winter, nature dies because Thor's hammer is in Jotunheim. But in the spring, he succeeds in winning it back. So the myth tried to give people an explanation for something they could not understand. But a myth was not only an explanation. People also carried out religious ceremonies related to the myths. We can imagine how people's response to drought or crop failure would be to enact a drama about the events in the myth. Perhaps a man from the village would dress up as a bride with stones for braids. What? In order to steal the hammer back from the giants. But by doing this, people were taking some action to make it rain so the crops would grow in their fields.
Okay, so what's going on here?
He's explaining how myths or the stories were made by the people to explain some event.
So what did they do? What kind of ceremony did they hold?
They
In order to appease the gods?
they would offer some sacrifices, or maybe they
Some animals like goats.
they would dress up as the myth characters.
Toilet of the gods. The story of the toilet of the gods.
Sorry?
Toilet of the gods.
What?
It's a part of the ceremony, the sacrifice. I saw the movie. Toilet of the gods.
Odin is the mother of Thor.
What?
Odin.
Yes, for Song of Odin.
Yes, I think so. You guys missed out another thing. People will enact a drama.
Yes,
People will enact a drama of what happens.
yes,
Of, like somebody who dress up like Thor,
yes,
but Thor dressed as a girl.
yeah.
And then, they
That
would enact a
particular
drama.
wedding ceremony.
Yeah, the particular wedding ceremony to triumph.
Yes.
So, and they would enact the drama in order to remind everyone perhaps to, to do something about it, because the gods are doing their own thing. They have no control over the human beings, mere mortals. They have no control over whether the rain is going to come or not. They want some control. So and they have to do something. Either either they do sacrifices or they could enact dramas. Okay.
There are great many examples from other parts of the world of the way people dramatize their myths of the seasons in order to speed up the process of nature. So far we have only taken a brief glimpse at the world of Norse mythology, but there were countless myths about Thor and Odin, Fair and Freyja, Hodder and Balder, and many other gods. Mythological notions of this kind flourished all over the world until philosophers began to tamper with them. A mythological world picture also existed in Greece when the first philosophy was evolving. The stories of the Greek gods had been handed down from generation to generation for centuries. In Greece, the gods were called Zeus and Apollo.
Zeus. Not Jews, Zeus.
Zeus.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't make it sound like Jews or something.
Okay. Zeus.
And Apollo.
Apollo, Hera, and Athene.
Dionysus.
Dionysus and
Asclepius.
Asclepius. Heracles. I don't Hephaestus. To mention only a few of them. Around 700 BC, much of the Greek mythology was written down by Homer and Hesiod. This created a whole new situation. Now that the myths existed in written forms, it was possible to discuss them. The earliest Greek philosophers criticized Homer's mythology because the gods resembled mortals too much and were just as egoistic and treacherous. For the first time, it was said that the myths were nothing but human notions. One exponent of this view was the philosopher Xenophon, who lived from about 570 BC. Men have created the gods in their own image. He said, what? I don't want to read this book, please, sir, sorry.
Sorry? Okay. You read it.
Read the go for it.
One exponent of this view. One exponent.
One exponent of this view was the philosopher Xenophon, who lived from about 570 BC. Men have created the gods in their own image, he said. They believed the gods were born and have bodies and clothes and language just as we have. Ethiopians believe that the gods are black and flat-nosed. Thracians imagine them to be blue-eyed and fair-haired. If oxen, horses, and lions could draw, they could depict gods that looked like oxen, horses, and lions.
Okay. What is Xenophon saying here?
In this mythological figures, the god in Greek mythology, the gods were more like mortals people, like egoistic and treacherous.
They didn't see what's the actual form of the god.
Yes.
They just created their own image. That god could be like that.
For everyone, God is like more close to how they are, how they look, how they behave. If animals could talk or speak, draw, they would draw their god look like them.
Not like us, like a human.
No, also
No,
they
no,
also
no,
they are
sir.
horses and
Like,
lights.
they believe that gods were born, like the police and close the language as we have.
What I
Like a
think-
human.
No,
No, the last line. If oxen,
if oxen, horses, and lions could draw,
they would duplicate.
they would depict gods that look like oxen, horses, and lions. Okay, for a horse or a lion or an oxen, if they have, assuming that they have an idea of or a conception of God and assuming that they can draw, if they could, they would draw the gods like themselves in their own image. Yes, during the period.
During that period, the Greeks founded many city-states, both in Greece itself and in the Greek colonies in southern Italy and Asia Minor, where all manual work was done by slaves, leaving the citizens free to devote all their time to politics and culture.
So, okay, fine. So this is an interesting situation too. So, the Greeks founded many city-states and they had slaves to take care of the manual labor, like for example to do the agriculture, to do the blacksmithing, to do other kinds of technical labor, let's say, pottery, etc. So if the slaves were doing all this work, what do they do? What will the Greeks do then? They have a lot of time in their hands. So they're going to do what? Painting, sculpture, writing,
Creating
poetry.
art.
Yes, basically this is I think this is what we would if we had free time, we did not have to worry about working and things like that. We would devote our time to culture and intellectual pursuits.
Yeah.
In these city environments,
In these city environments, people began to think a completely new way. Purely on his own behalf, any citizen could question the way society ought to be organized. Individuals could thus also ask philosophical questions without recourse to ancient myths. We call this the development from a mythological mode of thought to one based on experience and reason. The aim of the early Greek philosophers was to find natural rather than supernatural explanations for natural processes.
okay.
Sophie left the den and wandered about in the large garden. She tried to forget what she had learned at school, especially in science classes. If she had grown up in this garden without knowing anything at all about nature, how would she feel about the spring? Would she try to invent some kind of explanation for why it suddenly started to rain one day? Would she work out some fantasy to explain where the snow went and why the sun rose in the morning?
Okay. So I want to start from the natural philosophers now. Start from she caught her breath. The natural philosophers. The natural philosophers, she caught her breath.
She caught her breath. She had already emptied the mailbox, so the letter had to be from the philosopher. What on earth could she say to her mother? There's no stamp on it. It's probably a love letter. Sophie took the letter.
Okay, so yes, there's no stamp on it. If her mother saw the letter, what would she think?
It's
That
a
it's
love letter.
But of course, her mother is not aware that she's having a course in philosophy, basically, right?
Sophie took the letter. Aren't you going to open it? She had to find an excuse. Have you ever heard of anyone opening a love letter with her mother looking over her shoulder? Let her mother think it was a love letter, although it was embarrassing enough. It could be even worse if her mother found out that she was doing a correspondence course with a complete stranger. a philosopher who was playing hide and seek with her.
So yes, so funny thing. So if this happened to you, if you were 15 years old and you received let's say you received letters from a philosopher who offered you a course in philosophy. So while your parents might think that this is a love letter, they would be even more surprised even more surprised to hear that you are doing a course on philosophy. You're just 15 years old. So a love letter is embarrassing, but a 15-year-old doing a course in philosophy through mail with a stranger is even more embarrassing.
Yes.
For Sophie, that's how the situation is, right?
Teenager.
It
Only
was
15
one.
years old. Sorry? Did somebody say something? Okay. Yes, continue.
All good stuff.
It was one of the little white envelopes. When Sophie got upstairs on her room, she found 3 new questions. Is there a basic substance that everything else is made of? Can water turn into wine? How can earth and water produce a leaf from?
Life.
Life from.
Okay, so these are 3 questions here. 3 new questions. Is there a basic substance that everything else is made of?
Yes, carbon.
Hmm? Yes.
We are
yes.
carbon based.
Yes, okay. Can water turn into wine?
Yes. By fermentation,
Huh?
like you put water inside the barrel.
No, just water turn into wine? How can earth and water produce a life frog? How can water and earth produce a life frog? Each of these questions are interesting in different ways. Each of these questions are interesting in that the answers to each of these questions are different. And these are all separate questions. For example, they're not similar. They're not similar at all. Can water turn into wine? It sounds like, in the Bible, for example, we know that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, or Isa alayhi salam, as we know in the Islamic religion, turned water into wine. You understand the reference here. Can water turn into wine? Pani ki maut hoye jete pare. So for water to turn into wine, it has to be some kind of miracle.
Magic.
Some kind of miraculous, it has to be miraculous in nature.
Supernatural.
So
Yes.
associated with divinity.
Associated with divinity, yes. Is there a basic substance that everything else is made of? Everything is made of something, right?
Yes.
Is there a commonality in all these things? Is there one thing that everything has? Every single thing has a bit of. This is a more rational and logical question. This is not
Yeah,
begging.
compared to those other questions.
This is not asking you for a supernatural explanation. How can earth and water produce a live frog? What is a frog? Ben. What exactly? Gentlemen.
Sophie found the questions pretty stupid, but nevertheless, she kept buzzing around in her head all evening. She was still thinking about them at school the next day, examining them one by one. Could there be a basic substance that everything was made of? If there was some such substance, how could it suddenly turn into a flower or an elephant? Some objection applied to the question of whether water could turn into wine. Sophie knew the parable of how Jesus turned water into wine, but she had never taken it literally. And if Jesus really had turned water into wine, it was because it was a miracle, something that could not done normally. Sophie knew there was a lot of water, not only in wine, but in all other growing things. But even if a cucumber was 95% water, there must be something else in it as well. Because a cucumber was a cucumber, not water.
Did you get the logic here?
Yes.
Cucumber has 95% water,
Yes.
but the 5% has to be something
Something.
other than water, which makes it the cucumber.
there was the question about the frog. Her philosophy teacher had this really weird thing about frogs. Sophie could possibly accept that a frog consisted of earth and water, in which case the earth must consist of more than one kind of substance. If the earth consisted of a lot of different substances, it was obviously possible that earth and water together could produce a frog. That is, if the earth and the water went via frog spawn and tadpoles, because a frog could not just grown out of cabbage patch, however much you watered it.
Okay. So more interesting. There's an interesting thought here. So water and earth could produce a frog. Sophie has no difficulty accepting this idea. Water and earth could turn into a frog, but water and earth has to be something resembling a tadpole or a frog spawn.
Energy.
Hmm?
Energy.
It has to have the innate qualities of a frog. Okay, because you see a cabbage patch or cabbage also comes out of earth and water, but a cabbage patch cannot turn into frogs. You guys understand the distinctions she's making? Okay, this is just what I want to tell you guys.
When she got home from school that day, there was a fat envelope waiting for her in the mailbox. Sophie hid in the den just as she done the other days.
The philosopher's
The
project.
philosopher's
Okay, somebody else read. You read.
Here we are again. We will go directly to today's lesson without detours around white rabbits and the like. I will outline every broadly the way people have thought about philosophy from then and find bricks right up to our own day. But we will take things in their correct order. Since some philosophers lived in a different age and perhaps in a completely different culture from ours, it is a good idea to try and see what each philosopher's project is. By this I mean that we must try to grasp preciously what it is that each particular philosopher is especially concerned with finding out. One philosopher might want to know how plants and animals came into being. Another might want to know whether there is a God or whether man has an immortal soul.
Okay, so what are some of the ideas that we are seeing here? Each philosopher has a different project. So it's not like all philosophers work with the same ideas. And he's saying that we have to try and understand what each philosopher is concerned with finding out. One philosopher might want to know how plants and animals came into being. Another might want to know whether there is a God or whether man has an immortal soul. So some of the concerns are how plants and animals came into being, how existence came into being. The other one is there a God or is there an immortal soul? Do you guys understand immortal soul?
Yes.
What is immortal soul?
That souls cannot. Souls are immortal.
Yes.
Only body can. Only body dies, but souls.
What is a soul?
Soul.
Yes. So can we have a soul first of all? These are some of the questions that we are concerned with. And if we have a soul, is this soul immortal?
Yes.
These are some of the questions that philosophers are concerned with. Okay, continue.
Once we have determined what a particular philosopher's project is, it is easier to follow his line of thought, since no one philosopher concerns himself with the whole of philosophy. I said his line of thought, referring to the philosopher, because this is also a story of man. Women of the past were subjected both as females, subjugated both as females and as thinking beings, which is sad because a great deal of very important experience was lost as a result. It was not until this century that women really made their mark on the history of philosophy. I do not intend to give you any homework, no difficult math questions or anything like that, and conjugating English verbs as outside my sphere of interest. However, from time to time, I will give you a short assignment. If you accept these conditions, we will do this.
So the philosopher is saying, I will not be giving you any difficult homework or complicated or anything complicated, any complicated questions like math homework or anything like that. But every now and then I will ask you, I will give you some short
Assignments.
Yes, very nice teacher.
Yes.
How much time do we have? We have time. Let's keep continuing. The natural philosophers.
The earliest Greek philosophers are sometimes called natural philosophers because they were mainly concerned with the natural world and its processes. We have already asked ourselves where everything comes from. Nowadays, a lot of people imagine that sometimes something must have come from nothing. This idea was not so widespread among the Greeks. For one reason or another, they assumed that some things had always existed. How everything could come from nothing was therefore not the all-important question. On the other hand, the Greeks marveled at how live fish could come from water, and huge trees and brilliantly colored flowers could come from the dead earth. Not to mention how a baby could come from its mother's womb. The philosophers observed with their own eyes that nature was in a constant state of transformation, but how could such transformations occur?
Yes, you too. What are you going to do? Take it home, right? You guys need to leave. Stand up, leave. Come on. Stand up. What are you doing? Stand up. Anybody else? I know there are other people too. But you guys got off the hook. Yes, you. I see the phone. Come on. Stand up. I'm really sorry for that. Please continue.
How could something change from being substance to being a living thing, for example? All the earliest philosophers shared the belief that there had to be a certain basic substance at the root of all change. How they arrived at this idea is hard to say. We only know that the notion gradually involved that there must be a basic substance that was the hidden cause of all changes in nature. There had to be something that all things came from the return to. For us, the most interesting part is actually not what solutions these earliest philosophers arrived at, but which questions they asked and what type of answers they were looking for. We are more interested in how they thought than exactly what they thought. We know that they posed questions relating to the transformations they could observe in the physical world. They were looking for the underlying laws of nature. They wanted to understand what was happening around them without having to turn to the ancient myths. Ancient myths, and most important, they wanted to understand the actual processes by studying nature itself. This was quite different from explaining thunder and lightning or winter and spring by telling stories about the gods. So philosophy gradually liberated itself from religion. We could say that the natural philosophers took the first step in the direction of scientific reasoning, thereby becoming the precursors of what was to become science. Only fragments have survived of what the natural philosophers said and wrote. What little we know is found in the writings of Aristotle, who lived 2 centuries later. He refers only to the conclusions and the philosopher reached. So we do not always know by what path they reached these conclusions, but what we do know enables us to establish that the earliest Greek philosophers project concerned the question of a basic constituent substance and the changes in nature.
Okay. A few things. Yes, you had a question?
No.
Huh?
No, I just have a more back.
I understand. So, a few things. So, a lot of the things that a lot of the works of the philosophers were lost. The Greek philosophers. So, for example, the works of Aristotle, the works of Plato, we don't have all.
We don't know the process.
Hmm?
We don't know the process how they reach the conclusion.
Yes, that is true, but a lot of their original works, things that they wrote down, are lost. We simply don't have them.
Yeah.
They were burned down, or maybe they decayed, maybe they were torn down or burned down. We don't really know.
Antichrist things.
Hmm?
The British maybe destroyed those as well.
Yes, I mean they were destroyed in many at different times and different eras. So I don't really know. I don't really know the history of how they were destroyed or how much they were preserved. These things I don't know. But they were destroyed is what I want to tell you guys. So, and why is this important for us to know? A lot of knowledge was lost, and we don't really have the entire picture, the mythological worldview and the philosophical worldview that came after the mythological worldview. Okay, this part. All the earliest philosophers shared the belief. The natural philosophers said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th paragraph. All the earliest philosophers shared the belief that there had to be a certain basic substance at the root of all change. How they arrived at this idea is hard to say. We only know that the notion gradually evolved, that there must be a basic substance that was hidden cause of all changes in transformation. That there had to be something that all things came from and returned to. This part is important. This is some of the thought process that these philosophers have. They are concerned with transformations happen, but there has to be something that is causing the transformations. Number one. Number two, all things come from something and they return to something. Second thought. So these are some of the things that I want you guys to keep note of. Underline it or do whatever you want. All the earliest philosophers who returned.
found one interesting idioms. Carry coals to Newcastle.
Sorry?
Carry coals to Newcastle.
What, sorry?
Idioms.
Where did you find it?
Before the day power. Giving the expression of power. Page number 22.
This is far back. Where?
22 page.
Yes.
There is no need to carry castle. Carry coal to Newcastle. Underline this. There is bracket.
There is no need to carry coals.
There is no need to carry force to do that.
So I found the meaning of this idiom is basically to do something which is unnecessary. Do things which is unnecessary. But I didn't understand why did he say that.
Good. Let me go through this again. Oh, I thought Krishna. Sorry. Good question. I don't really know why he said it. Why does he say it? This question.
So that's why, sir. Like, if I would like to give a gift, like a book, if I give you the book, the same book that you bought, Sophie's Word, so that would be unnecessary for you. Okay, you don't need to read the same book again. That would be kind of unnecessary thing. So I don't know why did he say that things?
Okay, I think I understand now. So the philosophical worldview is such. So there's a philosophical worldview, and the example he gives is Nordic philosophy. So are these some of your classmates? The ones I just picked out. Who are these people? Give me the names. Naam ki bolen to? Sorry. Don't worry about that. Do not worry about that. Who are these teammates?
We don't know that.
দেখেন এই ধরনের বেয়াদবি আমি আসলে সহ্য করতে পারতেছি না। এটা কি ধরনের কাজ বলেন? আপনাদের তিনজন ফ্রেন্ড না, আপনি সরি বলছেন কেন? আপনি তো কিছু করেন না। না ইউ ক্যানট ডু দ্যাট। ইউ হ্যাভ নো রাইট টু সে সরি অন বিহাফ অফ এভরিবডি। কাকে বিরক্ত করছিল আপনাদের মাঝে? উনি
বিরক্ত না, হঠাৎ করে সেন্টি একটা টোকা দিছে।
কে আপনাদের মাঝে কে ডাকছিল ওনাদেরকে বলেন তো?
এখান থেকে একটা বাইক দিয়ে যাবেন।
এখন মানে না তখন মানে এটা কি সারাদিন ধরে তো নক শুনতেছি আমি। বলেন এগুলা এই ধরনের বান্দাদেরকে আমরা কি করা উচিত আমাদের? ইগনোর। কি করা উচিত বলেন, কি করা উচিত? হ্যাঁ? Just attendance। এত ভালো আপনি?
আসছে আজকে এত মানুষ, এটাই তো অনেক ভালো লাগতেছে।
I gave them now they finish their second chance.
স্যার 5 মিনিট আছে।
আপনাদের অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স নেই আর কি করব? You know this is being recorded, right?
Yes, the whole thing is recorded.
Wonderful, I love this.
All things are recorded.
What is that? আরে স্যার যাবে তো। বুদ্ধিমান প্রাণীরা কই থাকো তোমরা?
আপনারা কি weekend নাকি regular? Regular batch। Friday তে কাজ আপনাদের তো তাহলে সব NSN, NIN, right? 102. Navana. Are you related to the Navana group?
Yes, yes, the heir of Navana, owner of Navana.
I'm just joking.
Navana real estate.
Navana Group of Industries.
MOU.
আমার বাবা
Rosalie.
Vaseline.
LINE. So 0.2.
Samya?
But English is
কোনো ইম্পর্টেন্ট জিনিস জানে না, আমি জাস্ট
হ্যাঁ তারপরে Irene. 062.
One
174. Sorry?
Zero nine six.
092.
Shanta 100.
Shanta 100.
Yes. Century.
MU?
NNUJAN.
Okay. Or have you stopped the recording? We can stop it.